And, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Alrighty, y'all. Welcome to our mobile app training. So in this training today, we're going to go over the mobile app that we use to gather the data for the point in time count, and we're also going to go over the Regional Command Center, which is the website that we use to view the data as it's coming in on the night of the point in time count. So we're going to break it into those two parts. I will say if you have any questions, I'm going to be taking a little break between the mobile app and the regional command center portions of this training. So if you have any questions in between then, I will also have some time at the very end of this presentation if you have any questions. And also I'll have my contact information available as well. Again, thank you all so much for joining me today and taking some time out of your day to hear my spiel about, the point in time count as always. So let's go ahead and just dive right into everything that we're talking about today. So like I said, we're talking about the mobile app that we use to gather data for the point in time count. So the website URL is counting.us. It's built by Syntex Solutions. It's Counting Us. It's the same program and same app that we have used for the past several years. So if you're familiar with it from last year's and from past years, it's going to be basically the exact same thing that we've used. I will remind you also that you will need to go through the registration process before using the mobile app. So all pit leads, all volunteers will either need to update their registration or register for the app. I'm going to go over how that works in a minute. If you haven't already set your password, you can do it on the mobile app by selecting Forgot Password. I'll demonstrate that as well. And I'll also say that you'll need access to the internet in order to actually download the app. So the app is available on the browser version with the URL counting.us, but it's also available on your phones. You can download it on the Apple App Store as well as the Android Google Play Store. You will need internet to download it, actually. But if you are in an area where you're doing surveys where you don't have internet connection, there is a feature where you can save drafts, and we'll go over that a little bit later. So I also want to encourage you and your volunteers to make sure that you're doing practice surveys. You can actually do practice surveys up until the night before the point in time count on midnight. So after midnight on the day of the point in time count, that is when we actually open up the surveys. Everything after that will be considered an official survey. But before then, please feel free to do as many practice surveys as you want. I really encourage y'all to get familiar with like reading the questions out loud, practicing your script so that you know what you're doing on the day of the count. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about how to actually register for the app. So the registration link is txbos.pointintime.info. Again, it's required for all pit leads and volunteers to register. If it's your first time registering, you will definitely need to follow the instructions for setting your password. And if you're a returning volunteer, you can click on the update registration and follow prompts to update your old password. Again, if you're a returning volunteer. I do want to mention that if you forget your password, I can't look up the password for you. I can only tell you which email that you registered under by looking up your name in the system. But it is pretty simple. You just type in your email into the forgot password section, and it should send you a link into your email with a way to reset your password. So I want to go ahead and show off real quick. So this is the registration page right here. The link is txbos.pointintime.info. I'll go ahead and post that in the chat as well as the Counting Us URL, um, just for y'all's reference. Okay, let me go back here. All right, so yeah, like I said, the registration is txbos.pointintime.info. So if you are or you have any new volunteers that haven't done the point in time count before, they would need to click the green register button right here and just follow the prompts and fill it out in order to register. And once they have registered through here, they can click on the sign up button right here. And then they should be able to go to Counting Us in order to set their password. If you have anybody who's having trouble with the registration process, feel free to email me and include their email so I can help them out. I can always call and walk them through the process as well. If you have any volunteers that are coming back to the point in time count, um, I would do the blue update registration button. All you need to do is fill out your email and your password and then click login. If you don't remember your password, you can click on the blue reset password button and then just type in your email address. Pretty simple. It'll just send you a reset link so you can set a new password in case again, you forgot your password or you don't remember. Again, I can't look up the password for you, but I can definitely share with you the exact email that you used to register for the point in time count in the past. All right. You can also update your password on the actual Counting Us website. So when you go to counting.us, you come across this page that is asking for you to log in. All you need to do really is click on the Forgot Password button down here. It's really, really tiny in the bottom. You click on that. You should enter in your email here, click Submit, and again, it'll send you a way to reset your password through the email that you used to register in years past. You can also click on the blue registration button as well to set your password if you have any new users as well. So once you come across Counting Us and you have entered in your username and password, all you got to do is click the green login button. And then it's going to ask you to select your region after that. So if your region is not on here, please let me know so I can make sure to add it so that everybody can register for the correct region. If you have any volunteers that have the wrong region entered in on their app, please let me know so I can go in there and switch it around and make sure that they're in the correct region. I'm going to skip this for now. All right, so let me talk about the next part. That is the registration process. I do want to talk about making sure that you're in the right count activity. So if there's one thing that you're going to remember from this training, if there's one takeaway that you remember from this training, it's that you need to make sure that your app and all of your volunteers' apps are under the 2026 point in time count. If you don't see the year 2026 on your app in Counting Us, you're in the wrong count activity. If you see something like 2024 or 2025 pit count, if you submit surveys under that count activity, then none of your surveys are going to get counted and they'll get lost and we won't have an accurate count. Make sure that you and every single one of your volunteers make sure to enter in the setup key TXBOS 2026. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat real quick as well. And I'm going to demonstrate how to make sure that you're in the correct count activity as well. I do also want to mention that as long as you see a yellow highlight on the top of your screen that says this count is in test mode, you can submit as many practice surveys as you want. Come the day of the count itself, you will see that that yellow highlight is gone. That means every survey that you submit will be considered an official survey. Alrighty, so um, will the practice one be 2026 as well? Yes, it will. All practice surveys, you need to make sure that you're in the correct count activity, and that will say 2026. I'm going to show you all how to do that right now. So let's go ahead and switch back to Counting Us. Not seeing anything that says the year. I'm going to show you all how to do that real quick next. So once you've logged in to Counting Us, you should see you have the Texas Balance of State 2026 pit count and then a blue change count button. So what you need to do for all of your volunteers and for you, pit leads, is to go to the blue change count button right here, click on Join New Count right here, and then just type in the setup key TXBOS 2026, and then click the green Join Count button, and then select your region. Once you're done with that, you should have a little pop-up that says you are now counting for the Texas Balance of State 2026 pit count. If it says 2025 or 2024 or anything else, again, those surveys will not be counted. So just make sure that, again, you just go to Change Count, click Join New Count, enter in your setup key, TXBOS 2026, and click on the green Join Count button. Simple as that, and you should be good to go for counting surveys. Also, this green button should say 2026 as well. And then at the top of the screen, it should also say Texas Balance of State 2026 pit count. And as I said before, you'll see this yellow highlight at the top says pre-count mode. This just means that you can submit practice surveys. Come the actual day of the count, this highlight will be gone, and that means all surveys will be counted and will be considered official surveys. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about the known location survey. So the known location survey is a type of survey that is only available prior to the actual night of the count to help out with planning. So if you remember in our previous training, we talked about hotspot mapping in advance of the count and going out there in advance of the count and observing places where you are seeing people experiencing homelessness, whether it's encampments or near overpasses or in parks, and making note of those locations. So the known location survey allows us to actually track and record those within the app that we use to gather point in time count data. The intention, again, is to give pit leads an idea of where individuals are observed to be experiencing unsheltered homelessness throughout your geography leading up to the actual count itself. This will be used to determine the approximate number of volunteers needed for the point in time count, as well as the locations that need to be covered. I recommend I recommend start doing pit count hotspot mapping and known location surveys in January. But you can also go out now and start observing where you're seeing places so you can kind of get a general idea. So there's only two pieces to the known location survey. So you'll need to ensure that you're tagging the surveys in the correct spot, basically meaning that you need to either fill out the address or geotag it in the correct location. Um, and the other aspect is that you're going to need to estimate the number of individuals that are residing in that particular location. So I'm going to demonstrate that next. We're going to go back to the Counting Us app. So again, we can see at the very top, we have this known location survey right here. Again, this is only available prior to the night of the point in time count. We'll go ahead and click on that. It's going to ask us if it's going to be an individual or household survey. We'll talk about the distinction between those later on. For our purposes right now, we're just going to choose individual. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to geotag the survey in the correct location. So if you do have, 5G cellular or 4G LTE, or you're in an area with Wi-Fi, the survey should automatically geotag in the location that you're in. But if it's not automatically geotagging, you can always click and drag and drop the pin where you're seeing those individuals experiencing homelessness. So let's go ahead and drag it, drop it right here. Oh, and I do want to mention real quick, if you don't have location services on, you can always go to this button at the very bottom that says enter address. You can click on it. You can enter the street, city, state, and zip code, and it should geotag later on. But more often than not, I will say it should geotag automatically. And if it's not, all you need to do, again, is just drag and drop your pin in the right location. And then we'll go ahead and click on the green Next Step button once we've geotagged it in the correct location. And then the only other aspect to this survey is just to estimate the number of people experiencing homelessness in this location. How many people are we observing? Let's say that we see 6 people experiencing homelessness in this particular location. And then once we're done, we can click on the green Submit Survey button. And that is how we do the known location survey. I'll demonstrate that one more time. We just click on the known location survey. We'll go ahead and choose individual. We'll click, drag, and drop our pin on where we're seeing those individuals experiencing homelessness. We'll click on the green Next Step button. And again, just estimating the number of people that we see experiencing homelessness in this area. And then clicking the green Submit Survey button. Alrighty, so that is the known location survey. Let's talk next about the sheltered survey. So the sheltered surveys are offered in English and Spanish. And then the first thing that you need to do before you start any survey is determine if it's an individual survey or a household survey. I will mention that you cannot have a household of one. So an individual survey is like if we see a single adult individual on the night of the count. In cases where we would do a household survey, that would be like a family or two spouses living together. So in order for it to be a household survey, there needs to be some sort of familial connection between the people in that household. More often than not, on the day of the count, when you're doing an unsheltered survey, you're going to choose individual unless it might be two spouses living together or a family living together. All right, so only fill out surveys on individuals and household members that have not already been surveyed. This is part of the screening question, which is the first question that we ask folks when it comes to the point in time count. Then we'll select the project type, and this will pre-filter the list based on your project type. And then we'll select the name of the project and the organization name as well. If you look at the list of projects on the point in time count, and you're seeing that you might have some shelters on that list that are missing or not there, please let me know so I can make sure to add those. Please do this well in advance of the count. Make sure to check out your shelter list to make sure that everything is on there that needs to be on there. And if something is not, please let me know. I'll make sure to add it. All right. So if you fill out the survey in order, and then fill out the age range and progress in before progressing into the next sections of the survey, it should automatically filter the questions based on the age. I will say that children under the age of 18 are asked less questions than adults over the age of 18, which is why it's important to make sure to fill out the age range before progressing on to the next parts of the survey. I see something in the chat real quick. Sometimes we run into couples that became coupled during the state of homelessness. Does that count as a household? Yes, I would say that would count as a household. If it's two adults living together under the same roof, and they have some sort of familial connections, either they're spouses or they're a couple or something like that, we would choose household. Or if it's a family, we would choose household. If it's just single individuals living together without any sort of familial connection, in that case, we would do individual surveys on each of those people. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me go ahead and demonstrate the sheltered survey real quick. So you'll see we have the sheltered survey right here in Counting Us. We'll go ahead and click on that. And again, this survey is offered in both English and in Spanish. For our purposes, we'll go ahead and choose English. And then it's going to ask us if we want to do an individual or a household survey. So let's say that we come across a household of three people, maybe something like a single mother and two children. So in that case, there's familial connections. So we'll go ahead and choose household survey. Then it's going to ask us how many adults and children are there in this household. We'll go ahead and say three. Like I said, there is one adult and two children. We'll click OK, and then we'll move on to the next step for the project. We'll select the project type, whether it's an emergency shelter or transitional housing. We'll select the organization. I'm just going to select the first one on here, and then the project name. Again, if you see something on here that's missing, if you have a certain shelter in your area that's not listed in the point in time count, please let me know so I can make sure to add that. Do that well in advance of the count. All right, so once we've selected our organization and project name, let's go ahead and move on to the next step, this green next step button right here. And then we're going to need to fill out a survey with each member of that household. So we said there's three people in this household. We'll do 3 surveys. So we're going to start by asking them the first question. Has someone surveyed you today about your living situation? This is our screening question. We ask this question to everybody. More often than not, they'll say no. And then we'll go ahead and fill out the rest of the survey, making sure to fill out the range, the age, excuse me, making sure to fill out the age question. If people don't want to give out their exact age, they're going to need to fill in their age range. I will say, if you don't fill out the age range section, which is the required question, and try to submit the survey, it's not going to let you submit. You need to have this question filled out in order to progress to the next parts of the survey and submit it. Right, so once we have filled out the survey, we'll go ahead and click on the green Submit Survey button. And it should say the response was successfully submitted. Then we're going to do the survey on the other members of that household. So like I said, we did the survey on the mother of the household. We're going to move on to doing the children. So we're going to enter in the relationship to head of household, whether they're a child or a spouse or a partner. Like I said, we will put child. And then we're going to ask them, has someone surveyed you today about your living situation? And then again, fill in the rest of the survey, making sure to fill out that age range section. Pretty simple. I'm doing these surveys pretty quickly, but I will say you want to make sure that you're asking all the questions on the night of the point in time count. Again, for these household surveys, filling in the relationship to the head of household. This is a child, asking them, has someone surveyed you today about your living situation? More often than not, they'll say no. And then filling out the rest of the survey, again, making sure to enter in the age range. All right, and we'll go ahead and click on the green Submit Survey button. And once we have filled out a survey on each member of that household, it'll say response successfully submitted, and it'll take us back to our homepage. And that is how we do the sheltered survey. All righty, I see something else in the chat again real quick. Is ethnicity/race not a requirement? So the only required question is the age question. That's what HUD requires of us. The ethnicity/race is question is an optional question, but we do highly encourage that y'all gather that data. You don't need to fill in the ethnicity or race question in order to submit the survey, but we do encourage people to make sure that you are asking all the questions and filling out the full survey if possible, if people are willing to answer those questions. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on back to our presentation. And we're going to talk next about the unsheltered survey. So if you have volunteers that are going out on the night of the point in time count, this is going to be the type of survey that more often than not they're going to be using. So this survey is only reserved for those that are residing in an unsheltered location, such as a street, car, outdoor encampment, or other place not meant for human habitation. If someone, maybe you come across someone that says that they are staying in a shelter later that evening, I would still fill out the full unsheltered survey with them and just enter in the name of the shelter in the notes section so I can make sure to switch that over in my data cleanup process. Again, these surveys are offered in both English and Spanish. And you will first need to determine, similar to the sheltered survey, if you're filling out a survey on a household or people connected through familial connections, either spouses or partners, or a family of adults and children, or an individual survey. Again, you cannot have a household of one and only fill out surveys on individuals and household members that have not already been surveyed. So just make sure that you fill out the survey in order and always fill out the age range before progressing into the next sections of the survey. Again, different ages are going to have different questions asked. All right, so let me go ahead and switch and we will show off the unsheltered survey. So this is the unsheltered survey right here. We'll go ahead and click on it, and it's offered in both English and in Spanish. For our purposes, we're going to go ahead and choose English. Why did it not ask if I want an individual or household? Okay, there it goes. Let's try that again. We'll click English. And again, it's going to ask us if we want to do individual or household. So for our purposes, let's say that we come across a single individual on the streets. Let's go ahead and choose individual for this purposes. And then it's going to automatically geotag. Again, if it doesn't automatically geotag, we can go ahead and click and drag and drop the pin on where we're seeing those individuals experiencing homelessness. Or we can enter in the address, again, the street, city, state, or zip code. But more often than not, you should be able to drag and drop the pin on where you're seeing those people. And then we'll click on the green Next Step button. And then we're going to start asking them the questions. Did somebody already ask you questions today for the point in time count? That is our screening question. More often than not, they'll say no. And then we're going to ask them, where are you sleeping tonight? Whether it's an abandoned building, a bus, train station, or airport, outdoor encampment, park, street or sidewalk, or under bridge or an overpass, or in a vehicle. Let's say that we encounter someone at an outdoor encampment. We'll go ahead and select that. And then we'll fill out the rest of the information, making sure that we fill out, again, the age section, which is our required question in order to submit the survey. And then we can make sure that we ask the questions such as the race and ethnicity question, as well as the sex question, and if they have ever served in the armed forces, or if they're out currently without shelter because of domestic violence. We also have some questions about homeless history. Again, I recommend going through this entire survey and making sure that you practice by reading these questions out loud. And we'll also have some questions about substance abuse disorders, chronic health conditions, mental health conditions, physical disabilities, developmental disabilities, or if they have HIV or AIDS. All right, so once we're done, we can either click the green Submit Survey button if we're in an area with internet connection. But let's say that we're in possibly an area that doesn't have internet connection. We don't have 4G or we don't have 5G or LTE or whatever, and we can't fully submit the surveys. So in those sections where we're in dead zones, we can click on the blue Save Draft button. And we'll come back to that later. So you'll know that you have drafts if you see this drafts box down here with a red circle with a white number on the inside of it. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to actually submit those saved drafts a little bit later in the presentation. But again, if you're in an area that doesn't have any internet connection, you can't submit those surveys, make sure to click on the blue Save Draft button. All right, let me pop back to my presentation. So I want to talk a little bit about the observation surveys really quick. So the observation surveys can be completed in both sheltered and unsheltered locations. You will use this in a shelter location if a client refuses to participate in the survey. This should only be used as a last resort on sheltered clients. The observation survey doesn't gather any sort of demographic information, but we are kind of gathering description on what the person looks like. We only want to conduct observation surveys on people that we can physically see. If we haven't laid eyes on a person, we don't want to actually conduct an observation survey. At a minimum, you will need to be able to estimate their general age, and provide as much detail as possible so we can ensure that the same people are not counted twice. All right, so let me go ahead and show off the observation survey. I see we have another question in the chat. Let me see. How many drafts may you hold in your app? It should be able to hold as many drafts as possible. I haven't really stress tested it, but I have seen people save as many as 50 drafts, and it should work out just fine. I will say that you will need to submit each draft individually, and I'm going to demonstrate that after I demonstrate the observation survey next, and the VSP sheltered survey after that. Okay, so you can see that we have the observation survey right here. We'll go ahead and click on that. So again, it's offered in both English and Spanish. We'll go ahead and choose English. Then it's going to ask us if we're going to conduct a survey on an individual or a household. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and choose individual. And then similar to the unsheltered survey, we're going to need to make sure that it's geotagging in the correct location. So it should geotag automatically, like I've said. But again, if it doesn't do that, we can always click, drag, and drop the pin on where we observe those individuals. And then click on the green Next Step button. And so then the first question is going to be, please indicate why we believe this person is experiencing homelessness. Is it their activity? Are they panhandling or sleeping outside or sleeping in a vehicle? Is it their appearance? Are they carrying all their personal belongings? Or wearing clothing that wouldn't protect them from the elements? Maybe we've seen this person. We're an outreach worker. We're aware of this person. They're known to be unhoused. Or maybe they're accessing services for those experiencing homelessness, maybe at a soup kitchen or a food pantry. Or maybe they just informed you that they're unhoused and they don't want to do a survey. In those kinds of situations, we'll do an observation survey. Let's say that we're a caseworker and we've seen this person before and we know them to be unhoused and they're accessing services for people experiencing homelessness. So the next thing we'll do is we'll estimate their age range. Let's say that they look to be about 35 to 44. And then we'll type in where did we encounter this individual. Let's say that we saw this person at a service provider. And then we'll enter any cross streets or landmarks. We could say that they were at the soup kitchen on the corner of Main Street. Anything like that is super useful to us. And then this last section right here, please note any important information regarding their appearance, what are they wearing, or any other unique characteristics. We could say that they had a brown coat, work boots, a yellow beanie. Maybe we could say even like they had their dog with them and had all their stuff in a backpack. Please encourage your volunteers to provide as much detail as possible in this particular section so we can make sure that we're not counting people observed twice. All right, in that case, we'll go ahead and click the green Submit Survey button once we've filled that out. And that is the observation survey. So there is one more survey that we need to go over today, and that's the VSP Sheltered Survey. So the VSP Sheltered Survey is a survey that is shortened. It's a shortened version of the Sheltered Survey without any of the questions that would provide any sort of personal identifying information. So this survey is only intended for the staff of victim service provider shelters or domestic violence shelters that primarily serve survivors of domestic violence. All right, so if you are a street count volunteer, you don't need to worry about that survey. Again, only VSP Sheltered Survey staff should be submitting that particular type of survey. So I also will mention that you will know that it's a VSP shelter because of what you see in the app, and I'm going to demonstrate that next. So let's say that you have a caseworker that's working in a victim service provider shelter. So we want to make sure that all victim service providers within our area know that they're going to have to use the VSP sheltered survey. Otherwise, I need to recreate those surveys and get rid of any sort of identifying information. So it's a super short version of the survey. We'll go ahead and click on English. And let's say that we encounter a single mother and her child. We'll choose household since that's technically a family. We'll go ahead and enter in two since there's two people in that shelter. And then what we're going to do is we're going to filter it based on the project type. So let's say an emergency shelter. Then we'll choose our organization. I'm going to choose a VSP here. And again, you'll know it's a VSP because it says VSP next to the actual project name. So if you're in a shelter and you're surveying folks and you see that it says VSP Women, Women in Need, or it says VSP next to the survey name, that means that you need to do a VSP sheltered survey. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And then we'll click on next step. And then we'll ask them the screening question, has someone surveyed you today about your living situation? And then we're going to ask them what age range do they fall into. And then we're only asking two other questions. Have you ever served in the U.S. Armed Forces, including the National Guard or Reserves? And are you currently without shelter because of domestic violence? So we'll go ahead and fill those out with the client. And then we'll click on the green Submit Survey button right here. And like I said, since this is a household of two, a mother and a child, we did the mother. Now let's do the child. So we'll make sure to denote the relationship to the head of household. Ask them if someone has surveyed them today about their living situation, and then enter in the age range that they fall into. And then we'll click on the green Submit Survey button. And that's all there is to the VSP Sheltered Survey. If you're unsure of the VSPs in your particular area, please contact me. I can definitely get you a list of those and help you engage those victim service providers in your point in time count. Alrighty. So moving on from there, let's slide back into talking a little bit about saved drafts. So, like I mentioned, each draft will need to be submitted individually. You will have saved drafts in your app. If you see a white number and a red circle at the bottom part of your screen, please make sure that you and your volunteers have submitted all drafts by midnight on the night of the point in time count. Any drafts that are still left in the app and not submitted will not be counted in the reports. Drafts should only be used if you have no connection to submit the survey. Submitting them in the moment will save you time in the end, and this means you'll have less to remember at the end of your shift. You'll need to have all the required questions filled out before you can successfully submit the survey. All right, so let me go ahead and demonstrate the Save Drafts feature. So again, let's say that we did an individual survey on someone. I'll go ahead and fill this out really quickly, making sure to fill out the age range. And we had to save a draft, right? So you'll see we have the Save Draft box down here with that red circle and the white number right here. We'll go ahead and click on that. And so this will take us to where all our survey saved drafts are going to be stored. We'll go ahead and click on it, and it should highlight it. And then in the bottom left corner, we'll click on the Open button right here. And then we can go through the survey, making sure that everything in there is correct. And now that we're in an area that does have internet connection, we can click on the green Submit Survey button. And then our draft will be submitted. So that's all there is to it. I'll demonstrate that one more time. We'll select the survey what we want to submit. It'll highlight it once we click on it. Click on the open in the bottom left corner. We can read through the responses, make sure everything is correct, and then click the green Submit Survey button. And that's all there is to it. You can see that now that we have submitted all of our drafts, that red circle with the white number is now gone. That means we've submitted all our drafts and they'll be counted in the final reports. Okay, I see we have one more question. Your email for confirmation when we are done. Thank you. Greg, are you asking for my email? Yes, I will be providing my email at the very end. And actually, I'll just type it in the chat right now. It's just my first name at thn.org, ava at thn.org. All right, so I'm going to stop here before we go to the next part of our training. That is the mobile app training portion of our presentation today. If you want to see anything else demonstrated again, please let me know. Again, I'm going to stop to see if we have any other questions. Feel free to come off mute or type in the chat. Either way works for me. Hopefully that all made sense, y'all. Okay, I'm still screen sharing. Let me go ahead and get this guy set up real quick. If you have any questions regarding the mobile app that come up later, again, feel free to contact me anytime. Leave me a voicemail. Feel free to email me anytime. I'm here to help, and I'm also going to be having some cool opportunities available for support, like our office hours that we do every year, as well as opportunities for one-on-one support calls as well. So if you'd rather have me hop on a Zoom call with y'all, I'm more than willing to do that as well. Okay. Let's go ahead and switch to the Regional Command Center. All right, so next let's talk about, okay, I see one more question. If we receive bad weather like snow or rain, can we cancel? So HUD requires us to do the point in time count on a single night. We can't cancel the count or move the date since we've already decided to do it on the 22nd. If you do have bad weather, like inclement weather, which has happened in the past, we can work with you on doing the service-based count. And if that's something that you'd be interested in, please email me. That's a count that can extend actually a week after the date of the count itself, though we do encourage you to do it rain or shine if possible. But please email me if that's a concern of yours, if you are concerned about bad weather on the night of the count, on the night of the 22nd. We can definitely work with you to make sure that you can still get a count in. Something that we've worked through in the past. I remember last year in the Gulf Coast area, there was actually inclement weather, and we were able to work with those communities to do the service-based count in those particular areas. So even though they weren't able to get a super comprehensive count on the night of the count because the roads were frozen and they had decreased volunteer engagement, we were able to kind of make up for it by doing the service-based count and counting at some of those service locations. Hopefully that made sense. All right, so let's get into the Regional Command Center training. So like I was saying, Counting Us is what we're using to gather the data, and the Regional Command Center is what we can use to view the data as it comes in on the night of the point in time count. So the registration link for the point in time count is just commandcenter.pointintime.info. So you're going to use the same exact login that you used for Counting Us that you're going to use for Regional Command Center. So it'll be the same email and password that you use for Counting Us in order to access Regional Command Center. So that means you'll just need to make sure to register before getting access. Right now, I will say that only pit leads will be given access to the command center. And if you attempt to log in and it doesn't let you, please email me and let me know so I can make sure to grant you access. So the only other thing that you need to know is that you need to make sure to navigate to 2026 balance of state activity. If you've been a pit lead in the past, you might see that you have other years like 2024 or 2025. Just make sure that you're in the 2026 balance of state activity. And one last note that I want to talk a little bit about. You're by no means required to use the command center if you do not want to. Every community has a different capacity, all right? And this is just an optional service for each community. If you're not interested in using the command center or the back end at all, you don't have to. This is, again, it's just something optional to help with data cleanup, to see how the results are coming in on the day of the count, and to work through data quality and manage your teams as well. Okay, so let's get into the command center. Let me go ahead and copy and paste this link right here into the chat. So this should be the link for the command center. If you try to log in and you're having trouble, please let me know. I don't think any of y'all should have access to this quite yet. I'm gonna have to make sure that each one of you has access after this training. So if after this week you still don't have access, please email me and let me know. All right, so again, you're going to use the same exact email address and password that you used for counting us in order to log into the regional command center. We'll go ahead and click on the green login button. All right, and then we'll need to make sure to select the correct count activity. Again, make sure it just says 2026. We'll go ahead and click on that. All right, and then we'll be able to access Regional Command Center. All right, let me go ahead and switch back to my presentation to talk a little bit about the map view and then the list view. So when you open up Command Center, you're going to be shown the map of Texas with all the surveys coming in your area. So this view, I would say, is most useful when you're looking for duplicate surveys based on the location. So duplicates are surveys that are the two surveys for the same person. And in this case, we want to work to make sure to decrease those. So definitely keep an eye out for numerous surveys coming in from the same area, especially if they have similar descriptions. So from this view, you can edit surveys, archive them, or tag them on the screen. I'm going to demonstrate all of those things. I want to say notes around archiving. What archiving means is essentially getting rid of a survey from the actual results because it's a duplicate or because it has erroneous responses. I will always archive the survey that has the least amount of information. We want to make sure that we're keeping the survey that has the most amount of information. If they have the same amount of information, I recommend archiving the one that came in second, since that one is technically the duplicate. And I only archive surveys when I'm completely confident that it is a duplicate. So make sure to look at multiple factors such as the location, the description, look at the age, the race, and any other aspects. Tagging surveys is also a new option that I will demonstrate to you as well that will allow you to categorize a duplicate survey without having to immediately archive it. And I also want to talk really quickly about the list view. So the list view is another option that you can use to view surveys for duplicates based on the description and the actual aspects of that survey. You'll primarily use the note section and other columns in conjunction with the map view to find those duplicate surveys. So you can open up the surveys and look for similarities based on age, or location, or other visible characteristics. And you can also use some of the filtering options. You can also view surveys that have been tagged as well. And you can insert tags such as duplicate survey, who the survey has been reviewed by or approved by. You can also insert the location of that survey, whether it's an outdoor encampment or a park. So let me demonstrate some of those aspects to you now in Regional Command Center. So again, once we logged in and we select our count activity, we'll come across the map. In the responses tab, we'll have the map, and then we'll also have the list view. So when looking for duplicates, I recommend, again, looking at both of these tabs right here. So let's go ahead and zoom in. And let's see if we can find some duplicates. I've set some up earlier just as examples. See, I see these two right here that have been submitted pretty close to each other. We can look at our list view. We can see that these two surveys right here have pretty similar descriptions. We can either open them from the list view, and we can see that they're in the same location. We can open the other one too and see that that one is also in a similar location. We can also look at the map view as well. Open them up, look at the descriptions. We see that this person's initials are ZP. They're 43, they're a male, and they served in the armed forces. Let's look at that other survey and compare. Their initials are ZP, they're 43, they're a white male, and they served in the armed forces. So in this case, since they're pretty close to proximity to each other, we'll go ahead and archive them or tag them. So we can assign a tag to it. We already have the duplicate tag right here, but we can also create other tags by creating this plus sign, such as maybe the location where it was tagged, or we could also enter in the person who reviewed it as well. More often than not, though, I think the most useful tag that you will use is duplicate. So you can select that and come back to it later. All you got to do is select it and click Save Tag. And I'll do that for both of these. We'll go ahead and click on Open. We'll assign the tag as duplicate and then save the tag. Great. So let's go to our list view. Let's say that we're done with our survey shift and we're looking through all our duplicates. We can go to this filter button right here. And then I think the most basic filters is the ones that are the most useful to you. And then we can go to response tags right here, click on the duplicate tag, apply the filter, and then we can see all the surveys that we have tagged as duplicate. So I recommend, if you're wanting to use Command Center, that you definitely go in there, poke around, mess around with some of the filters, see what works best for you. There is no one-size-fits-all solution for using Command Center. It's what works best for you. I think that the response tags is pretty helpful, especially when I'm doing data cleanup for the point in time count. I'm making sure to tag things as duplicate and then coming back to them. So let's say that we're for sure that these two surveys are duplicates. In that case, we'll go ahead and choose to archive the survey. So archiving just means that we're taking it away from the actual survey results once we finish up those reports. So we'll go ahead and click on Archive. We'll select our reason as Other, and then we'll specify the reason why we want to archive it. So in this case, it'll be a duplicate. And then all we need to do is click on the blue archive button right here, and that survey will go away. And we're left with one. So that's how we archive duplicate surveys. I'm going to go ahead and clear the filters right here. Another way that we can use Command Center is to identify duplicate observation surveys. So in the filter section, we can also filter by the actual survey itself, whether we want to see the sheltered surveys or all the unsheltered surveys, or the observation surveys. So let's go ahead and filter by the observation surveys, and then we'll be able to see all of the observation surveys that have been submitted in our area. We'll go ahead and zoom out on the map view. And like I said, again, use a combination of both the list view and the map view when looking at those surveys. I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint really quick to talk about duplicate observation surveys. So overall, the best ways that you're going to find duplicate observation surveys are using the map view and looking at similar surveys that are occurring in the same general area, especially if they are of the same description, or what is written in the notes section. Using the notes section and the list view to find similar descriptions based on the nickname and the physical descriptions that are given, and using the custom filter option and looking over surveys with numerous very similar answers. All right, so let's go ahead and switch real quick again back to the Command Center. Okay, and you'll see right here, there are two surveys that are like relatively close to each other on our map. We'll go ahead and zoom into those. We can even look on the list view as well. Let's go ahead and click on them, and then we'll click on the open button right here at the top. And then we can look through the responses. We can see that this person was indicated as homeless because of their appearance and because of prior interactions. Their age range was 25 to 34. they were noted by the 360 highway and 2222 intersection. And so they had a red puffy coat, work boots, sweater, and they had their dog with them. Alrighty, let's take a look at the other survey reported in this area. Okay. So they were noted to be by appearance, prior interactions, 25 to 34, by Highway 360 and 2222, with a red puffy coat, work boots, and sweater. And they also had their dog with them. So because of this, we could either assign that tag as duplicate and come back to it later when we review everything, or we could just archive it right now, go with our gut. We'll go ahead and do that right now because these are really close to each other and they have basically the same exact description. We'll go ahead and click on this archive button right here. We'll select our reason as other, and then we just type in duplicate. And then we'll click on the blue archive button right here. And then our survey will be gone and we're left with one. That is how we do duplicate observation surveys. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about really quick is just running reports for data quality. So this is something that, again, is optional that you can do to view the data as it's coming in. So when you read a report, you can select the blue underlined numbers, and it'll bring you to a screen that shows you every survey that falls under that category. I'm going to demonstrate that next. It's most helpful on the data quality page since it will show you which surveys are missing this information. All observation surveys will show up as having missing information. If you do run an unsheltered report, though, I do want to make a note of that. And you can manually select individual counties or cities. I'm going to show you how to do that as well. I do also want to note that if you are going to be running reports for data quality, please do not release these PIT reports to your community until you've been given approval by me to do so. It takes me about a month to do the data quality and outreach for shelters to make sure that we have the most accurate numbers. So once I do have those reports, I will send them to you. And there will also be special reports created for observation surveys. The data cleaning process means that your results from the day of the pit count will be slightly different than the actual reports that I deliver to you. That's because, again, I do an outreach process to all the shelters to make sure all their numbers have been received, and I also do a little bit of data cleanup to make sure that there are no duplicates in the actual point in time count. All right, so let me go ahead and show y'all how to do a report. So in order to do a report, I would make sure that you have all your filters cleared. So you just need to click the clear filter button right here. We should have all of our responses. All right, and to run a report, all you got to do is go to this reports tab right here. And then we'll click on HUD pit report. And then you can choose an unsheltered pit report, a sheltered pit report, or an unsheltered and unsheltered combined pit report. For our purposes, I'm just going to choose a sheltered pit report. And then the only other thing that I recommend that you do is filter by your region geography. So make sure before you actually run the report that you enter in the region that you're wanting to run the report in. Make sure that it's your region. Otherwise, you're going to get all the results for the entire state, and that's not going to be very useful to you. So just make sure that you filter by your region, and then we'll click on the green Run Report button. It does take a little bit of time to actually run the report, so yeah, just wait a little bit and then it'll show up and you should be able to see the results for your particular region based on if it's an unsheltered, a sheltered, or a combined. If it's an unsheltered, sheltered, or combined report type. Excuse me. Losing my voice today, y'all. Sorry. All right, and so once you've ran the report, it should pop up right here. So we can actually click on some of these numbers right here, like the total numbers of persons, and we can see all of the surveys that have been submitted in that particular category. We can even open them up and edit those responses as well, such as the age range, or we could even change the race, what their sex is, if they have served in the armed forces. Just make sure to click the green save button. We can also look at some of the other data quality check sections, such as if they're missing gender information or missing race information. So if you're getting a bunch of surveys that are coming in on the night of the count, and you see that there's a lot of missing gender and missing race information, we can click on those blue numbers. we can actually look at those surveys themselves. We can see the person that submitted them. We could either call them or email them to make sure that they're actually submitting all the questions asked on the point in time count, just so we can make sure that we have good data quality on the night of the count. So that's one way that you could use it. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it. Again, I recommend that you poke around and explore different ways that you can implement using reports in your data quality process. I do think that the most important way that you could do it for is to look at the data quality check section, see if there's a bunch of the same persons submitting surveys without gender or race information, and maybe calling them up and seeing if they're asking all the questions for the point in time count. I think that's one of the most useful ways that you can use it. All right. So, last thing I think I want to talk about today is just the users and team overview section. So this is the screen where you can see everyone who is registered on your team. If you have a volunteer who is registered, but they're not showing up on your team, you can contact them and ask them to update their team in their mobile app, or you can do it manually, and I'll show you all how to do that. And you can also contact me, give them their name and email, so I can make sure to manually move them over to your team. So you can make sure that all your volunteers are on your correct regions team. So this list does not mean that all of your volunteers have completed the required training though. So if you're having your volunteers watch the online training videos, you'll for sure need to determine how you want to track this information. There's no easy way for me to send you a list of the volunteers because the training list isn't broken down by region. I will say to please instruct all your volunteers to register using the online registration portal and making sure that they select the correct region. Again, if they select the incorrect region, I can fix it, and I'll also show you all how you can fix that as well. All right. So let me go back to here. Let's check this out real quick. So we have a users tab up here and a regions tab as well. Let's click on the users tab. So from here, we can either set this person's region. I'll go to mine actually. So if you click on these, you'll notice that they highlight from here. We'll click on my name right here and we can set the region. So all we need to do is select the region that we want from this dropdown. So say that you have a person that registered for the wrong region. What we can do is we can just type in their name in this section right here. Their name will come up. We'll make sure to highlight it. And then all we need to do is just set their region to the correct region, and that is how we correct someone's region. So beyond that, you can also use this to filter by all the people that have registered for our particular area. I recommend, again, poking around and seeing all the different aspects of Regional Command Center that are useful to you, so you can make sure that everybody in your area that is registered is on the correct team. So the other aspect that you could use is going to the Regions tab. So let's go click on this one, for example. You can see the region geography right here. And then you can also see all the people that have registered for your area. You can assign region admins to your area. If you want more people to access Command Center, please let me know so you can assign them region admin. And then you can also designate teams as well. So we can add a team, such as a team name, whether that's serving the North or the South. And then we can add people to those teams. We can set volunteer quotas through here and see how many people that we need to assign. So I think that that would be the most useful way to use this. You can also use this screen to add people to your team as well. So we can click on the screen Add Users button, and then we can add people to our team, if that's something that you feel would be useful to you. Again, definitely poke around in there, figure out what works best for you. So the only other thing that I do want to show off to y'all today is just viewing those known location surveys. So if you remember, when we did the first demonstration here in Counting Us, I showed y'all the known location survey right here. So the known location survey, again, all we need to do, select the place where we see those people, click on next step, estimate the number of people in that area, and submit the survey. So that's how we submit the known location survey, right? But how do we actually view the responses to that survey? So to view the responses, you do that within Regional Command Center. So let's zoom in on our area right here. And then on the right of the screen, in our map view, on the right of the screen, you'll see a section called Map Settings right here. If you scroll down to the bottom of the map setting, you'll see a section called Known Locations Pins. So all you need to do to view the known location pins is to select a start date. So I recommend selecting a start date on the day before you started your hotspot mapping. So we'll go ahead and select that, click apply, and that's all you need to do. And then you can see those known location pins showing up. And they're also color coded based on the number of people observed. All right, so let me demonstrate that one more time. Again, on your map view in Regional Command Center, there'll be a little tab to the side on the right side called Map Settings. We'll go ahead and scroll to the bottom to the Known Location Pin section. We'll make sure to select our start date, the day before we started our hotspot mapping, and then click Apply, and then you should be able to see the known location pins. And that's pretty much all there is to it. That's how we can start to determine where we're seeing people experiencing homelessness, as well as the areas that we're going to need to send our volunteers to. Okay, so that is the Regional Command Center. I do have, I think, a couple more slides I need to talk through. So just some next steps. I'm going to release a video on the Regional Command Center. Definitely recommend watching that as a refresher. And also I'll be uploading these videos that I've recorded of me talking through the Counting Us app as well as the Regional Command Center to YouTube. So if you need to rewatch this training that we just did, you can do that as well. And then make sure that your volunteers are registered for the count at txbos.pointintime.info and make sure that they're in the right count activity. Make sure that they're in the 2026 count activity using that setup key TXBOS 2026. Double check the shelter locations list in the mobile app. Again, if you're seeing shelters that are in your area that are not listed, please let me know. And if you aren't sure of which shelter locations are in your area, or if you don't believe, if you believe that there is a shelter location missing, or if you'll be conducting surveys at individuals who are staying at a hotel or motel using an agency voucher, please contact me. I'm going to be sending out a list of the shelters that I'm aware of in your area based on the housing inventory count tomorrow. So please be on the lookout for that particular email. And definitely check out the resources on the THN website. I'm going to be sending some more pretty soon, along with an update email. And I'm also going to have some additional refresher materials released in January of 2026. That being said, this is my contact information. Again, thank y'all so much for joining me today to talk about the Regional Command Center, as well as the Counting Us app that we use to gather data. My name is Ava. Please feel free to email me at my first name at thn.org. That's just ava at thn.org, or feel free to leave me a voicemail or call me at 512-652-4714. I do say that the best way to reach me is my phone number, or not my phone number, sorry, my email. I'm a little scatterbrained today, y'all. So if we have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or feel free to come off mute. I'm gonna be hanging out here for a couple more minutes. Thank y'all so much. Cool. I'm hoping everything made sense to y'all. Thank y'all so much. The recording will come out tomorrow. I'm planning on uploading it tomorrow and sending y'all an email with all the updates to the website, as well as the shelter lists.
Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Um, would you recommend, in addition to any kind of localized training that we're doing, when we go over do's, don'ts, and proper protocol, would you recommend having the individual volunteers also watching this video?
No, I wouldn't, because I'm going to be releasing a specific video for volunteers.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, I'll see y'all soon. Again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to email me anytime. Alrighty. Thank y'all so much.